Welcome one and all. It's time for an Andean Rem Warhammer the Old World battle report. So, if everything has gone to plan, I should be joined by Mr. Remington. Good evening.
Hello. Hope you can hear me.
Here to offer his unique insight, the opposing view in a battle report, if you will. The vile, evil, tainted forces of the Wood Elves against the pure, noble Dwarven mountain holds.
The forests of Athel-Loren have been infested by beady-weedy, not gnomes, but dwarves, and we will do our best to rid our beautiful land of these corruptors of the earth.
And that's one way of looking at it, certainly. It's not a position I hold, but if you were to cast your eyes to the screen now, you will see Mr. Remington posing there with his army in front of him. And these are the forces that are going to be, from one point of view, defending the forest, from the other point of view, corrupting the beautiful industrial landscape with their horrible greenery. And we're going to go through the lists, starting with the Wood Elves. It's 2,000 points, by the way, and it's going to be an open battle game with plenty of forests for Rem to sink his... What do Wood Elves sink into things? They don't really sink their fangs into anything, do they?
Well, they might. A Weight Watcher might sink himself into the mud to be, conceal himself. But yeah, I don't think they'd sink into much else.
How about they have plenty of trees to hug? Let's go with that. So you should be able to see the giant orange arrow on the screen here. So let's see what is in the list.
Lovely jubbly. Right. Well, we've got 1,998 points. And what you're looking at, I'm going to follow your arrow rather than my list. All right. So we've got 10 Wildwood Rangers with Standard Bearer and Warden. That's kind of like a champion. Like, no musician for them. And next up, is the arrow going to move? Yes, the arrow's going to move.
Sure is.
That. I'm debuting my Warhawk Riders for the first time. These are actually called Kestrel Riders. If you're interested in these models, because it's hard, you can't get Games Workshop ones at the minute. So yeah, these are my Warhawk Riders. They don't come with anything special, I don't think. Just a cavalry spear, arcane bodkins, and a longbow.
Do you want to tell people what arcane bodkins does?
Arcane bodkins give you -2 on the armor saves. So if you manage to get a wound through, you'll take 2 off the armor save, which is brilliant against dwarves because you usually field very heavily plated dwarves. It's very hard to not just wound them, but to get them off the table because they've got toughness 4. My average strength is 3, so I'm looking at 5s to wound each time. So anything that can help would be better.
Now, what I'm noticing here is that you're probably going to invest in some rod at some point. Maybe some brass rod, because your little flying stands are looking a bit bendy here.
They were a bit bendy, yeah. I went away on holiday, came back, and they were bent down. But I bent them back, so maybe I won't need a rod. I don't know.
Maybe you'd be making a rod for your own back.
Yeah.
So this next unit here.
So this is my larger unit of Glade Guards. There's 10 of them, with a Standard Bearer and a Musician. And they also have Arcane Bodkins. All right.
Now, who's this happy-looking chap at the back?
That is a Tree Man, just a basic Tree Man. So that means he gets actually more attacks than a Tree Man Ancient.
The Ancient's a wizard, though, isn't he?
The Ancient's a wizard, so this basic Tree Man gets 5 attacks. He gets a Stomp. Of course, he's got his Strangle Root, which is a shooty, multiple shot missile attack. And he also has Regeneration, which would be good to remember next time I play him.
Yes. It's a small spoiler that you do occasionally forget to roll for regeneration a couple of times.
Crucial things I often forget. So part of my core units, back to the core, we've got 8 Glade Riders. These are among my favourite units of the Wood Elves. Very manoeuvrable. I've got a Glade Knight in there, Standard Bearer, and these have got Hagbane tips. So they are poisoned arrows, which means if I roll a 6 to hit, it automatically wounds. Of course, you do get the armor save.
Yes, that is
But
still very good against dwarves, though. And as we found out the last time we played dwarves versus wood elves, poison works against war machines. So we'll see in this game whether you take aim at anything that's maybe toughness 7 that you can just automatically wound by rolling a 6 to hit.
yeah, now let me tell you, I didn't know what list Andy would bring because usually he brings, lots of hammerers, iron breakers, the guys that spew fire out of the little guns, all very, very highly armored troops. So it's often a real battle for me to get any of his units off the table. So, yeah,
We shall
I
see.
was really surprised with your list, but I did know you'd bring some war machines. You didn't bring a full complement, but some is better than none, especially when you got Hagbane tips. So the next one, we've got a Shadow Dancer. That is a War Dancer hero. He's carrying the Spear of Loek, which gives you Killing Blow.
Very
And he's
nice.
also got a Ruby Ring of Ruin for 30 points, which is basically a fireball attack. I could have made him a level 1 wizard, but I thought, nah, it's all right. We'll just give him the ring instead.
Save the
See what that.
points.
Yeah.
Now, what about
And
this?
yeah, this is a regular unit of war dancers. What can I say about those? Well, they've got extra hand weapon, and there's 9 of them. And this is one of my best fighter units. So my aim is to try and get them in a fight and get them there without being shot down first.
Easier said than done against dwarves, though. Now, what's this impressive-looking beast here?
Wow, this is straight out of the old archives of my collection. This is a wood elf spellweaver. It's a level 4. She's my general. She is on a unicorn, which is something quite unique. I think quite a few wood elf players have been talking about trying out a unicorn. I thought I'd try it out. In fact, this was my alternative list I brought. I did bring a dragon list first, and I thought, well, everyone's doing that, so let's try something different. So, yeah, she's my general, level 4 wizard. She has the earthing rod, which will allow me to re-roll a miscast, which is useful.
Yep.
And she is got talismanic tattoos, which for 15 points gives me a 6-up ward save. And she is a level 4 elemental wizard. So that's kind of interesting. Thought I'd try that again. And the spells that we rolled, I got the signature spell, which is the Storm Call, which is a -1 to movement, which could be great against dwarves,
Could
right?
be quite significant since you're taking away a much higher percentage of their movement than you are against other armies.
Yeah. Then I rolled the Plague of Rust, which gives an enemy unit -2 on their armor value and a range of 21 inch. So that's fantastic against dwarves. So can you see the combo potentially? Plague of Rust and then Arcane Bodkins. So that's a -4 on the saving throw.
Quite potent.
Devastating. Could be, yeah. Then I rolled Summon Elemental Spirit, which is basically a magic vortex. Remains in play, and it turns a small template into dangerous terrain, and you can't see through it. So that's fantastic for blocking line of sight. If you've got war machines or shooter units. However, I'd have to get 15 inch away from you to do that, but that is in range of your shooting, so must be mindful. But she's on a unicorn, and the unicorn is kind of cool. If you're in combat with it and you fail an initiative test, I think, or is it a leadership test? I think it might be an initiative test.
Remington on top of his rules.
Beguiling aura. There we go. Oh, it's a leadership test. That sucks. Basically, you'd have to, if you fail your leadership test in combat, you need 6s to hit me. So that's kind of cool.
We'll see if that comes up.
And it does give you +1 wound, a unicorn, and a 5-up save. Right, now we've got one of my favourite Wood Elves units, the Sisters of the Thorn. And they come with a magic spell, which is dead cool. And it's a power level 2 because I've got a hero in there, well, a champion, and a standard bearer. So, yeah, what was the spell? I think it was was it a fireball?
I'm sure we'll find out at some point.
Yeah, battle magic fireball.
But decent cavalry unit, and you've got another one right behind them as well.
Brilliant. Well, the sisters have poisoned attacks, and they've got javelins, and they've got a 4-up ward save. So great unit, love them.
And who are behind them?
Oh, we've got the Wild Riders, of course, full command, with shields and hunting spears.
Yes.
So they don't have any magic banners or anything.
So they're a bit more of your standard cavalry, rather than weird magical ones.
Yeah.
And then
remember, they are subject to frenzy as well, so that will give them an extra attack.
Yes.
But it does mean they're supposed to charge the nearest enemy or an available enemy.
As soon as they have the option to charge, they must charge until they lose frenzy, which can happen.
Right. Do you roll on the frenzy chart, or do you roll on something for that?
Nope. There is impetuous where you have to roll to see if you have to make the charge or not. But frenzy, you just have to.
Right. Wow.
You've got these 3 units of archers here. So who are they?
Yeah. So the 2 at the front, they are just 5 Glade Guard and 5 Glade Guard. With, let me see what I armored them. I think they are bodkins. Yeah. So all the normal Glade Guard all have arcane bodkins. Behind them at the back, you've got 2 units of Deepwood Scouts, 5 each, and they have the poisoned arrows this time.
So they're the scary ones.
Yeah, minimum strength unit. They have Vanguard. I think they have a Vanguard move. Scouts, skirmishers.
And you have some scouts. I don't think you've got any vanguards. I think you've got scouts, though.
They are scouts, yes. Yeah, that's it. I think that the whole
you've got the Great Eagle as well.
Oh, yeah, for 60 points. Just an annoying Great Eagle that Andy's going to have to deal with. I was wondering why these are 60 points and a unit of the Warhawk Riders 138. So I was trying to look which ones. I mean, is it better to get more Great Eagles? I thought I'd try both out, but they do have decent attacks. They've got a stomp attack, the Great Eagle, and it's got a wonderful serrated maw attack.
I assume the Eagle has lower leadership, though.
Yeah, only leadership's 6, but it does have 3 attacks: Wicked Claws, and the serrated maw gives multiple wounds and armor bane. So if you can get wounds off, Great Eagle could be really good.
Shall we see what you're up against? This does not look like a lot of models for 2,000 points of dwarves, but I assure you it is 2,000 points. And when you look at the front and you see all these heroes, you might understand how it's got up to that point level. So this is an Engineer's Expeditionary force, which is not the standard dwarf list, so there are certain units you can't take. You can't have Kings, you can't have Anvil of Doom, you can't even have Iron Drakes. And I'm just looking down here, what other notable units can't you take? No Iron Breakers. But for a trade-off for all that, you do get some pretty cool stuff. So you get Scout Gyrocopters in core. So Gyrocopters is core, so that's what this bad boy is here. The old metal Gyrocopter is the Scout Gyrocopter, which is faster and weaker, but it's also cheaper. And it comes as standard with the clatter gun as well. You can see 3 other gyrocopters in the list. They obviously can't be core because they're not scout gyrocopters, they're just standard. And they are also 60 points because I've only given them steam guns, all 3 of them. So trying out the scout one with the clatter gun, 3 regular gyrocopters with steam guns. And one combo that I wanted to try for this list is a unit of Thunderers. Right here, you can see I've got 16 of them. And they're going to be buffed up to the eyeballs. So what they have they have the Expeditionary Marksman upgrade, which is 1 point per model, and that means they don't suffer any negative to hit modifiers for moving and shooting, which is quite a big deal for Thunderers because they're shorter range than crossbows, and normally they're ponderous, so you're -2 when you move, so they don't suffer that penalty at all now. And then to combo in with them, we've got an engineer, I'm using this old engineer with the hammer there, as Burlock Daminson. And what he does, let me tell you what the rule is actually called. So he has got in his, is it in the range finding optics? Yeah, there we go. Burlock and any unit he has joined do not suffer the usual -1 to hit modifier when shooting at long range. So we've got a unit of Thunderers that are not suffering modifiers for moving or for being at long range. So that sounds like a good little combo there.
Well,
And
plus they get the stand and shoot, right, without any penalty.
yeah, dwarf units generally stand and shoot without penalty,
That
so
is
they're going to be pretty
terrifying.
tasty. So my plan is to get them into a nice position on the battlefield, start shooting things, and try not to get them shot in return, because they are quite vulnerable to enemy shooting. And you can give them shields, which I have done in this list, so they're going to be a bit more survivable than your average Thunderer. Then, what else have we got in the list? We have got
That's an expensive unit, Andy.
that unit there. Let's see, well, Burlock Daminson is 85 points, and the Thunderers are 207 points, so it's about a 300 point unit.
Yeah.
So it's quite significant, but they do deal out some pain, and I'm hoping to put them on a hill, and that's why I've got them in 2 ranks. So you'll see with the deployment map and the terrain map whether that's likely to happen. We've got Thorgrim Ullickson. I'm using the Belagar Ironhammer model for him because he has an Oathstone, and he's just a pretty tough, fighty dude who does lots of damage in close combat with his weapon. Let me see.
Is it like D6 wounds if you get a wound through?
Yes, let me just see what it's called here. So, his weapon.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, finding the name of it, here we go. So he's got the Rune of Smiting and the Rune of Parrying on his weapon, so it's -1 to hit against him, and he does multiple wounds D6, so that makes him very scary. He also has a Grudge Stone, and once he plants the Grudge Stone, the unit that he is in becomes unbreakable and pass any panic tests, but after that they can't move other than to reform or give ground or follow up and such. So my thinking is stick him in a unit of rangers with their crossbows, because anytime you slap down an Oathstone, the enemy are just going to avoid you like the plague, especially if it's an unbreakable fighter unit. They're just not going to go near you. So putting him in a unit that can fight but can also shoot, so if the enemy stand back, then the rangers can just blast away at them because they can still reform. So
Yeah, and dwarf rangers have a bow skill of 4.
yes, so they're
Same
better
as-
at shooting than your average dwarf. So we're going to see if that is an interesting combo that works out, because rangers, of course, 30-inch range on their crossbows, and once the Oathstone goes down, unbreakable as well. And rangers have run into issues with them occasionally getting broken in the past, which is why I tend to give them the Rune of Courage on the unit to stop them fleeing from terror. So we'll see if that combo works out. Then, what else have we got? We have got more characters. Got 2 engineers, so the 2 guys with the handguns here. And we're trying out some different combos on them. So one of them, with the engineering runes, I have given to this one. Let me see here. There's a lot of engineering runes you can take now. So I've given one of them the Rune of Rapid Fire, which means you make 2 shots, and also the Rune of Bursting Flame, which means that 2d3 hits instead of 1 hit when it hits something. So if it hits with both of the shots, that's 4d3 hits.
Yeah.
And this next one isn't a rune, which is why it's a nice one to add. Expeditionary Marksman, so it doesn't suffer negative to hit modifiers for moving and shooting. So he will suffer for long range, but you can't take the Rune of Accuracy on this guy as well, which means you suffer no negative modifiers to shooting at all, because you can't put that many runes onto an engineer. There is a combo where you can take a Thane with a handgun and pile up all those different runes on him, but you can't have that many on a standard engineer. So that's what the first one's got. And then the second one has been tooled up.
Is the stupid gun. That's what we've called it, isn't it?
Yes, he has the stupidity cannon, the rune of concussive force on his handgun. So if he scores a hit on an enemy unit, they become stupid until the next turn. So when they try and do something on their turn, they might just behave rather stupidly and kind of amble forwards instead.
I've had a few comments, Andy, already. People saying it looks like a very small dwarf army.
Yes, it definitely is.
But you've got a lot of characters, I guess, yeah? A lot of runes going on.
Yes, there are plenty of more runes coming up. We've got 2 rune smiths, as a matter of fact, that are going to be going into some of my units and giving me a bit of magic defense. So one of them has the rune of spell breaking, which is the auto dispel. The other one has one of those, but in addition to that, also has the Master Rune of Balance, which is once per turn you get to roll 3 dice for a dispel and discard the lowest. So a little bit of long-term dispelling options there. And they, of course, are going to add Armor Bane into the units they're in as well, which is nice. Then, also, technically a character, we've got one Doomseeker, who is played by Alric Big Butts, the legendary Slayer, until the actual Doomseekers get painted. And I've given him the Rune of Endless Battle. So any attacks that caused unsaved wounds generates another attack for the Doomseeker. So that's pretty cool. And the notable feature of Doomseekers is that you only score points for letting them live. If you kill them, you don't score anything. You only score if you don't kill them during the game. So the enemy have a conundrum. Do they avoid this model? Or do they kill it and just forget about it, and you're then 95 points down in this instance. 95 points that you can't score if you kill him.
Yeah.
So there's all the characters. Then what else haven't we mentioned? We've got 2 war machines, both naked. We've got an organ gun and a grudge thrower. No runes on them.
Yeah.
Then we have got 12 miners. And in the Engineer's Expeditionary Force, you get the cool new feature of putting down little mining markers around the battlefield, and then you can pop up from one of those instead of the table edge, which is quite a big deal because in my experience, miners pop in from the table edge and the enemy just walk very slowly away from them, and then you can't catch up. So it's very sad times if you're a miner in the old world so far. However, with those mine markers that I can just put out in no man's land, there's a threat that they can pop up anywhere. So they might actually be able to get involved in the game, which would be new for them. And I think
very good comment here, Andy. Plush, if I pronounced that correctly. Hello, mate. Sorry, guys. I'm 87% sure it's a Wood Elf win, and I'm here fully rooting for the Dwarves.
Oh, so well, we'll find out, won't we? And then I don't think I mentioned the unit of 16 Rangers. I did mention them. That I was going to put heroes into them, I think. But 16 of them, they've got throwing axes, great axes, crossbows, shields, all the upgrades, and the Rune of Courage I always give them as well, just to stop them running away early in the game before the Grudge Stone is set. So because I'm planning to put him in with the Rangers, I can't put the Rangers too far outside my deployment zone in this game. Okay, so time for some close-ups of the Dwarves where you can see all the painted eyeballs in all their glory. So I really like by the time I got to painting the Thunderers, I'm quite happy with my dwarf painting style now. The Rangers were one of the first ones I did, so there's a few less highlights on those, and then I went a bit nuts the further we went into the painting. So I like the Thunderers a lot. There's the Gyrocopters in all their glory, the Dwarf Heroes, including Legendary Slayer with his large butt, which you will be able to see because he'll be facing away from you in a minute, and the War Machines, including my favourite War Machine, the Organ Gun, and maybe my favourite War Machine crewman, which is this guy with the hammer here for the Grudge Thrower. Okay, let's do it. We've got an overhead shot. So here's the deployment. So you can see that the mine markers have gone down. So Mr. Remington, would you like to talk us through your deployment strategy here and what you're hoping to achieve with this layout?
Now, bear in mind, I am the world's slowest player. This game took 5 hours to play.
It might have taken 6 hours, actually.
So I put my things. We did roll off, didn't we? You had far less units to put down than me, so because you have so many heroes, they go down in one drop, don't they? Right. So,
Yes.
having said that, I did put my units kind of where I wanted to put them. I was happy with the deployment. I've got my Deepwood Scouts to the far left there, and the other unit of Deepwood Scouts I've placed on the hill straight away. So with them being skirmish, that would be -1 to hit, and with long range it's -2. So there is some survivability there.
Yes.
They're looking right down at the Rangers, so that's an obvious target, and possibly, well, we'll see who goes first, but they could be getting some pot shots off at the gyrocopters with the Hagbane tipped arrows. To the far corner left, we've got our Warhawk Riders. I wanted to keep them out of range in case I didn't get the first turn. And they've got a 10-inch move, so potentially 20 inches they can get across the table and threaten. So I didn't want to put them in the middle because then they would be war machine, especially that organ gun would get with feathers flying out of the sky. In front of them, I've put the eagle to give them a bit of protection just in case Andy does get in range to shoot. I have the Sisters of the Thorn next to those. I've got some Glade Guard, the bigger unit of Glade Guard, that's 10 of them. So hopefully in turn 1, if they turn 1, that hill is blocking their line of sight, so I could walk up onto a hill as well and start shooting down. That's an opportunity for them. And then in the forest, I don't know if I can't remember. Yes, I put the War Dancers in the forest. You can't see them there. So them being skirmishes as well, I believe.
We should point out one thing as well. These hedges here, we're considering that the same as the house, so blocking line of sight.
Yeah. So the War Dancers are going to be very hard to kill at that distance and in soft cover, and skirmishers, that'll be -3. So they're definitely safe for now. And they are in the middle, which is kind of risky because they are a combat unit, so they're going to have to move up the table if they want to actually fight anything. But there isn't too much to fight, as you can see. Andy's miners aren't on the table, and there's only sort of 2 units of dwarves, really. Everything else is either characters or flying machines. So
you got your spellcaster hiding behind this, so she can't be targeted immediately.
Hiding behind this. Yeah, sorry, the War Dancers are actually behind the forest. In the forest are my Wildwood Rangers. That's what you can't see there. Then in between the forest and the house, we've got our other 5 unit of Glade Guard. Then we've got a unicorn behind the hedge, as I said, and behind them are the Wild Riders. Not sure if that's the best placing, but that's where they were. Definitely out of range of his shooting. Maybe not the catapult, but that's got a huge range and it doesn't need line of sight, so not much you can do about that. And then we have our Wild Riders there, the big unit of horsemen. I've put them there because they can either go in the middle or they could wheel off and threaten Andy's flank, and didn't want to get them kind of in range of the gyrocopters and get steamed first turn. And finally, in the forest, we've got another unit of 5 Glade Guard.
Yes,
the only one I've missed is the big tree man who's standing at the top left.
Oh yeah, there he is, camouflaged in there. So another thing to point out, I haven't done my Vanguard moves with the gyrocopters yet, but we have done our scout moves. So from the dwarf point of view, over on this side you can see the Rangers have gone down here, and Thorgrim is getting ready to join them. Over here we've got the Thunderers. They're hiding behind the hill, and that's because no one's going to be able to shoot them because the hill's going to be in the way. But these guys don't suffer any penalties for moving and shooting. So when I'm ready, I can just walk up onto the hill and then start shooting away, and until I do that, I'm safe. And I'm not going to get charged by anything either because of the hill, and if they want to come that close, then they're going to get shot by everything. So I think the Thunderers are going to do alright there. They've got a Runesmith and Burlock in the unit, so they've got loads of Armor Bane and all the bonuses associated with Burlock. He can also let them reroll 1s to hit as well, which is good. So nice. Then we've got, on this side, we've got one engineer who really should be here. Because out there on his own, he can actually be targeted. If he was standing there, then he couldn't be shot by most things. Then the gyrocopters were the first things I deployed, just to tease out Rem's deployment drops to see where he was going to put everything. So on this side we've got the scout gyrocopter and 2 regulars, and we've got 1 regular on this side. So they're going to be used to either block up the enemy or go and try and steam them, or maybe charge things. If they've taken wounds, I'm probably not going to be charging into archers, because they could get lucky with a stand and shoot and kill them. Not a lot of wounds in the gyros. The organ gun just looking into the killing field in the middle here, ready to blast anything that comes into view. And the Doom Seeker also in the middle, because I have a feeling the enemy are probably going to want to come to get the organ gun at some point, so he's just going to start marching straight towards the enemy. And then wherever the enemy are, by the time he gets to about here, he'll divert himself in that direction. Grudge Thrower has got the forward view totally blocked by the house, but that's fine because I just want to be able to see either side, like so. So it does have a bit of a blind spot, but with the pivot as well, you can see most of the battlefield. There's just a small cone there that'll be blocked. The engine...
Andy Plush is asking, do you have any sappers?
There are no engineer sappers, they're just regular engineers in this game.
Right, okay, I'm not sure what sappers do.
It's a different flavour of engineer.
Right, okay.
We have got the other engineer there. This is the one with the stupidity cannon, effectively, and he is lending his buffs to the 2 war machines in case they roll a misfire. And that is the dwarf list in action, and you can see where the mining tokens are. So the miners could pop up in any one of these 3 locations. Another reason that I've spread so wide is because I didn't want Rem putting any of his scout archers in my flank, because I don't really want to have to turn round and deal with them at any point, because as soon as I turn round I'll leave a flank open to maybe get charged, and then I won't get my stand and shoot against things. So I'm conscious of that, so I deployed all the way across the table so there's nowhere for him to be annoying, basically.
I mean, your army, Andy, is basically a kind of a gun line, isn't it? Because apart from the Slayer model, everything has got a shooting attack.
Even the miners actually have blasting charges. I should have pointed that out as well.
Yeah, so my first quandary is I know your copters are going to be in the vanguard. Do I try and get rid of them? Meanwhile, I'm getting shot at with your rangers and your gunners. Or do I just go for the beef of your army there and try and take those 2 units out? We'll see.
Okay, so we've got a slightly more over-the-shoulder view from the dwarf point of view now, and got some nice close-ups of all the units ready for battle. And there are the miners on the edge of the table waiting for their moment to strike and enter the fray. And you can see the big green stuff sculpted extra large butt cheeks on Alric Big Butts, the Doom Seeker there. And there's a picture of the spells in Remington's pristine handwriting.
Pen that didn't work properly.
Yes. So he's going to be firing off some spells at some point. The vanguard moves. The gyrocopters have moved up a bit towards the enemy. And the Wood Elves get the first turn. So had the Wood Elves not got the first turn, I think I would have immediately shot off the unit of scouts on the hill. I think they would have died instantly. But it's first turn for the Wood Elves, and you can see the Eagle has immediately declared a charge at one of the gyrocopters, I think.
Yeah, I thought, listen, if I don't win the combat, at least I'm going to tie him up and he can't shoot me. So that's kind of one gyrocopter out of the way for a turn. And who knows, I might even dare I say, kill the gyrocopter. But I think I could probably survive a round of combat.
Yeah, I decide
taking it out the game.
I think we're both quite confident here, because I decide, actually, it's only an eagle. So I'm just going to hold. I'm not even going to flee. Just going to hold there. And I'll be happy with that.
One thing about gyrocopters is when, I don't know about the scout one, but when they charge, they do get impact hits. And a lot of my units are really lightly armoured or have no armour at all. So that can be quite devastating, because I've only got toughness 3. So to render his impact hits null, it's better if I get the charge in first. That's what I was thinking.
Yes, because I do think a gyrocopter, if it charges into one of your units of archers, if it doesn't get killed by the stand and shoot, I think it wins against them, probably.
Yeah.
You've got a bit of a flanking manoeuvre going on here with your Hawk Riders.
Yep, I wanted to threaten a flank charge there, or perhaps go round the corner and try and threaten the stone thrower.
Yes. And you've got a bit of a cavalry charge with your caster wisely hiding amongst the cavalry so she can't be targeted at the moment, which is
Quite
nice.
awkward though, because she has a bigger base size than the normal cavalry.
Yes. And a bit of repositioning. The tree man, last time we played, your tree man didn't really get into the game very much. So have you taken any lessons with the positioning here? Because you got him a bit out of the way last time.
Yeah, they've only got movement 5, and they do have a shooting attack, but it's only 12 inches. So if they do a march at 10 inch, they can't do the shoot. So you want to get him into combat, really, because he's not a wizard. That's just a basic tree man. But on the other hand, I don't want to put him straight in the middle and be eating your organ gun attacks. But maybe I'm just a bit prejudiced. Maybe the organ gun isn't as good as I remember. Either way, I've just moved him forward from the start instead of hiding him.
And obviously there's going to be some shooting dished out. So let's see if your bows do anything. You've got a wound onto this gyrocopter in the middle. And then you've got it down to 1 wound with the next unit. And then with your shooting out on your left flank, my right, you've put a wound onto the engineer who's foolishly standing on his own. And then another unit targets him and he dies. So I was convinced you were going to shoot the gyrocopter. Foolishly,
Maybe
I didn't.
Perhaps I should have. I don't know. But
I didn't think you were going to target the engineer. He's the one that had the big explosive gun that does multiple hits. So I thought you were going to shoot the gyrocopter because it was so close. But I think wisely you went for the engineer because he's a softer target.
Yeah, I didn't. I thought if I've only got a unit of 5 Glade Guard there, so if they end up getting steamed off the table, I'm not that fussed. I'm thinking I can't just go for all the gyrocopters, so I thought that one out on its own would be all right for now.
Yes,
and
so he should really have been deployed here, so he couldn't have been targeted. But alas, he was too confident that the Wood Elves wouldn't shoot him, and he paid the penalty.
Now, one thing, slightly in hindsight, Andy, perhaps I should have paid more points to make the Glade Riders have a reserve move, which is fantastic for cavalry because it means after movement and shooting, they can then do another movement.
Yes,
which would be lovely for positioning. But then, I sort of ran out of points.
Moving out of range of the enemy, for example, very nice. And over here, the gyrocopter and the eagle do no wounds to each other at all. So it's just a total stalemate.
Yeah, that suits me.
And this is the overhead view heading into the dwarf turn 1. So what is my thinking at this point? I'm thinking there's 1 unit in the kill zone. So I hope they're going to be killed immediately. My Thunderers can't reach the hill in one go, so they're going to move right up to the edge of the hill. And then that still means they're invisible as far as these dangerous units are concerned. And then in the next turn, they'll be able to move onto the hill and start shooting. The Rangers, at the moment, I think, when I got the little angle checker out, this unit of Hawks are actually just about in their flank. So what I'm going to do, when I add models to the unit, then that'll put you into the front, because there is a Runesmith and Thorgrim there, and they're both going to enter that unit in my turn.
Right, would that give you better visibility or something?
Well, it'll extend the width of the unit.
Right, okay.
So it'll mean that the angle is starting here instead of here, which puts you back into the front of the unit.
Right.
So, into my turn. The gyrocopter gives these archers a bit of a steaming, but I think only kills 1, which is disappointing, because in a unit of 5, you want to kill 2, because then you're forcing a panic check.
Yeah, they don't have an armor save either, so...
No, so very disappointed to only take out 1 there.
Yeah.
The other gyrocopter in the centre that has been wounded moves up and flames a couple of these guys off. I think it's 1 from each unit get flamed there.
Yeah, I think I might have rolled a saving throw with the Wildwood Rangers. Don't know, because I have paid for shields for them, so.
Yeah, not many kills though. The Thunderers, as I said, go right up to the edge of the hill, so next turn they can just go straight onto it. The Doomseeker moves out towards the enemy, inviting them to shoot him, because if they do, then they're not going to score any points for him, and that means they're not shooting at things that they could score for. And the stupidity cannon is fired at this unit, and scores a hit, so that arrow is representing the fact that they're stupid for the next turn, which is a very funny addition to the runes.
I do get a leadership test though, don't I?
Yes. But Wood Elves, they have a mixed bag of leadership. Some of the units aren't that high, so it can be useful against them.
Yeah.
I whittle down this unit in the middle, the one that I said was in no man's land and was certainly going to die. They're down to 1, and then they have... Let's see. Where were they? Were they in that spot before? Oh, because I remember what happened. I killed a couple of them, and then they failed the leadership and fell back in good order. And then I shot them with something else, and then got them down to 1, but they'd already taken a test, obviously, so they don't take another one.
Yeah, I was actually pleased with that, because it means the unit is kind of still alive. So if I can keep that one guy alive, then I'm not giving away all the points.
Yes. My Rangers then take aim, and they kill a couple of your archers from that unit, who then fail their test and fall back. And they fall back all the way through the tree man and end up here.
Yeah, I think you may have only killed one of them.
It could. It must have been 2 to force the panic check.
Yeah, which is, I would have thought those Rangers would have caused more damage, to be honest. You know,
so would I, oddly enough. But you are skirmishers, aren't you?
Skirmishers, and was it long range? Possibly.
It probably was.
Right. Okay.
Down here, I flank charge the scout gyrocopter into the eagle, hoping that 2 gyros would beat 1 eagle. But alas, no. We get another stalemate there.
You do get a wound off the eagle, because I can see his wound.
We do a wound each, and that's it, I think. So not much going on there. And what's going to happen in the next turn? Well, if these guys want to charge into my rangers, they're free. I haven't used the grudge stone yet, because I don't want to lock the rangers in position just yet. So you can currently break them. But that unit of 3 hawks is not going to do anything if they charge into the front of a massive line of great weapon rangers with Thorgrim in there as well. They would just get absolutely annihilated.
This is a great shot, Andy, because looking at that, I would have thought one good idea would be to move the Warhawks down and try and threaten your catapult now. That was my original plan. But I didn't do that.
Well, there is one downside to doing that, because the rangers can go into skirmish mode. So they would count as moving, but they could shoot you if you land back there. But they do have throwing axes as well, so they could throw those without penalty. They just aren't quite as good as crossbows, but they would be throwing axes with armor bane too, because there's a runesmith in there. So you're still not safe if you're here, is what I'm saying. So it might not be a terrible idea to not do it.
Yeah, the Hawk Riders don't have a saving throw.
Then, here's an interesting thing. If the unit of rangers were to have entered skirmish mode, do the characters also become skirmishers? I haven't added a character to a skirmishing unit yet, so that has not come up. But if anyone knows exactly what happens there, let me know. Spoiler alert, it doesn't happen in this game, so there's not going to be an incorrect rule there.
Doesn't the character have to be a skirmisher or a loner or something like that? Have some sort of key word?
Something like that. Someone will know the precise wording of it in the chat, I'm 100% sure. So, turn 2 for Wood Elves. And what are the big threats at the moment? Mainly, you can kill gyrocopters. That's the main thing you've got in your sights right now. The Doomseeker is, of course, right there. So, you declare a charge with 4 archers into a gyrocopter.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, they're the same points value, right? Well, my archers are that unit's 65 points, and same points as your gyrocopter, right?
Yeah, gyrocopter's 60.
Okay, so 5 points more for the Glade Guard. I'm thinking, I don't think 4 Glade Guard can kill that gyrocopter. No way. I'd have to get all 4 hits, all 4 wounding, and you fail a saving throw at -2. So I thought, well, I could try and sort of run away, but I'm not going to get out of range of you because you're a lot faster than me. I don't know if the steam gun suffers penalty if I'm in a forest. I don't know
Nope, it does not.
the template. So I thought, well, why not charge him? Get him tied up, and then perhaps I could flank charge him with my glade guard.
Well, you do deny the impact hits if you make the
Yeah,
charge into the gyrocopter, so there's some logic there. You
there is
also
that.
decide that you're going to charge the Warhawks into the flank of this gyrocopter. So we've got a very
Yeah,
complicated winged battle going on here now.
I was a bit too scared of the Rangers, to be honest. So I thought, well, if I get the Warhawks in, I could tie you up for another turn, and I can't be shot at.
You also charge with this unit into the flank of the scout gyrocopter. So you're really throwing everything into this bundle, this big mess we've got created here now.
Yeah, again, in previous battles, my Sisters of Thorn have been decimated with your missile fire. So I thought, get them tied up as well. It gets me closer to your units, and you can't shoot them. But I really did want to shoot my my javelins, but I don't think you can shoot while you're charging. Well, we didn't play it that way anyway, so I thought just charge them in.
Yes, unless they have some special rule that says they can throw them on the charge.
Yeah, I don't think so. But they do have poison attacks, so that could be useful. If I'm rolling sixes, could get some more auto wounds in.
Now you're charging with these guys. So these are actually quite a fighty unit, aren't they? They're charging into this gyrocopter.
Yeah, now they are. No, no, yeah.
What's the name of that unit with the
They're my
200
Wildwood
weapons?
Rangers. They
Yeah,
come
there you
in
go.
at they got like strength 5, -2 armor piercing.
Yes, so as soon as I hear this, I'm immediately fleeing from this. I'm not definitely not taking that charge.
I think those Wild Rangers are really underrated. I just I don't know. They were great.
They are
You
kind of
don't
stuck
get
out in the open now because I've run away from them.
you don't get an option of making them veterans or what's the old one? What's the other
Drilled.
thing you drilled? Yeah, you don't get those options here.
Well, Wood Elves
So-
aren't militaristic enough to do that, I guess.
But they are immune to psychology, and yeah, I figured they'd be a perfect thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter because Andy ran away, and now they're exposed.
Yep. So
to-
you've made it in with the charges. I
Yeah.
believe this unit of archers failed their stupidity test and just trundled forward a bit behind the rangers
Yeah,
there.
that was frustrating. You can see the Shadow Dancer there's on his own because he has the Ruby Ring of Ruin. So I really wanted to fire that at the fleeing gyrocopter. But
There he is.
Was the problem I didn't have line of sight, or maybe
I believe
just
so.
failed?
I think you couldn't get the line of sight to it yet.
Yeah, and I was saying, well, it's flying, so I don't need to look across. I just look up. But
Ha ha ha.
yeah,
The tree man has moved out into the open. He obviously wants to get stuck in at some point, and one of the rangers is killed from your various missile attacks coming their way.
yeah, that would have been from the Deepwood Scouts shooting there.
In combat over here, the gyrocopter kills one of your archers and you don't do any damage to it, which means that the gyrocopter wins and then it successfully restrains to not follow up after you, because it's my turn next, so I want to be free to either charge them or fly off and scorch them with a bit of steam as well.
Yeah. At this point, I remembered that I have fought with my Glade Guard against your copters before, and the Glade Guard never come out on top.
Now,
So-
you've got an interesting decision that you've made here. So this
Yeah.
big multi-combat, the scout gyrocopter dies. I lose by a fair margin. This
Yeah.
gyrocopter does not run away though. He just gives ground. And you follow up with the eagle and with the Warhawk riders. This
Yeah.
unit are staying out of it a bit. So they're somewhat shielded from the rangers though. If I tried to shoot at them, there would be cover involved. So maybe they're not in that much danger.
Yeah, the Warhawks do have a good advantage when they charge in. They've got the spears, so that gives them, I think, gives them +1 strength on the charge.
My choices here with the rangers are going to be, do I shoot the tree man and try and wound him on 6s, or do I charge straight into combat with the Warhawks, because the Rangers would make absolute mincemeat of them. Okay, so there's the overhead view. Going into my turn 2, the miners are going to start rolling with their steam drill to see if they can come in as well now, and if they do, then I'm going to put them around here somewhere, just to block the enemy in their tracks, and hopefully block the enemy's route to them with gyrocopters, and we shall see. So, into my turn 2. All the archers are dead. The gyrocopter that they were trying to fight, trying to bash it into the sky with their puny bows. If you've seen the film Birdemic, when they're trying to fight off the terrible CGI birds with coat hangers,
No.
I imagine it's like that. So the gyrocopter just left combat and then, well, important distinction, did not leave combat. It avoided going back into combat and then steamed them all to death.
No, I didn't mind this so much, because if you look at the overhead shot, that gyrocopter is like miles away.
It is. Now, over here, you'll notice my Thunderers have moved up onto the hill, and you're seeing the downsides of my combo movement trays, because they're sliding all over the place, on this old classic GW hill from the 90s as well.
Yeah, they're bringing back these hills, aren't they?
Yes. You can see I've been blasting away at this unit and made them stupid next turn with the engineer.
Yeah, and you killed one of them. And you can see that the the Glade Guard have been decimated there, and they've...
Yeah, how many were in that unit to start with? Was it 8?
8, yeah.
Yeah, they're down to 2, because I just fired everything I had at them. The Thunderers, and a Grudge Thrower lands around here and does damage to them as well. The Gyrocopter that's on its last wound does not charge the enemy. It just stands in front of them and then flames off. I think it's one model from each unit there gets killed. Yeah. And here are the miners into the action now. So they've popped up near the mine marker, the legal distance from the enemy. And what they're hoping is that anyone that charges them, for example this unit, I can throw my blasting charges at them on stand and shoot. And those guys to be right where I want them. So there's minimal units that could actually charge the miners now. This unit, if they overrun past the gyrocopter, could potentially get in there, which is something I possibly could have tried to avoid. And you'll notice that Mr. Big Butts attempted a charge. He tried to charge the Wild Riders, but he failed his charge, because he's only a chubby little slayer. And I think actually, did I roll a double 1? The first couple of dice before I even tried to add the D3 distance that the Doomseeker has.
It wasn't great.
Yeah, so he definitely didn't make it, but then they got shot to death quite a lot anyway.
But your Thunderers on the hill really did make a name for themselves at that point, didn't they? They did well there.
They did. And over on this side, you can see the Rangers have moved up because they did charge into the flank of...
The
Warhawk Riders.
Yeah, they destroyed them easily.
And hold on, let me just see if this is legal. Which way was the gyrocopter facing? Okay, yes, good. So the gyrocopter is facing this way. So then after the combat, as we go back to where we are, the gyrocopter did overrun and crashed into the cavalry unit right here, which is going to lock them down for next turn, which is good because it means the Rangers aren't going to get multi-charged. And anyone who's seen my battle reports before will know that long lines of Rangers, they love being charged, but they do not love being multi-charged. If you charge in 3 or 4 units across their line, they do not like that at all. So these 2 units going in would have been quite scary, because that could have just about killed enough to blunt their strike back.
Yeah, you can see my plan has gone tits up now, because at the end of my turn it looked great. But your miners have popped out. You destroyed my Warhawks. My Eagle's in flight. Your steam gun in the middle is somehow still alive and holding up on charges.
One thing I've remembered about the miners' positioning here, I had to be very careful with them to make sure the tree man couldn't see them. Otherwise, they would just get eaten by him, certainly, because they'd be in the flank.
Yeah, so you can see my Unicorn Mage is exposed. Now the Glade Guard, the Glade Riders have been...
Yes, look at this. And now there is no longer a unit of 5 cavalry nearby, so she can't take cover, so she's going to have to try and get out of there or get shot. So that was the combat result there, by the way. 8 to 1 for the Rangers.
Yeah, I always think turn two is the most. Turn two and three can be devastating
Oh
against
yeah, so
shooting.
this is where I might have cheated a bit. So we've got my Thorgrim there,
Yeah.
who made his way through the ranks. Now he was already in this rank, so the fighting was taking place here, and he was like in the middle somewhere. Can he move down this rank into a position to fight? Is that legal? 'Cause I
I
think I would
don't
have
know.
killed them anyway, but just for future reference, is that how it works? Nope. That's what I was thinking afterwards. So what I think it should be is if they get charged in the flank, for instance, he can move to there, so he's now in the fighting rank. So if he's in the fighting rank already, all he can do is stay where he is and make a supporting attack, which I think
Right.
is
So
correct.
if you had more than one rank, he can move through ranks, but he can't move along a rank.
Yes, basically.
Right.
Well, you could if you're charged in the flank, because then the fighting rank would be the flank.
Ah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So, also, one thing that I did wrong here, after you move through ranks, you're supposed to bounce back to your original position at the end as well. So
Which
even
was
though
wrong.
even though he shouldn't have moved there anyway, so he should be somewhere near the middle. The positioning of the command models in this Rangers unit is always a bit dodgy because they don't fit next to each other, the command models, because they're just too big and beefy and wide. So you just have to imagine that the command models take up just the central slots there.
Yeah, I always imagine that the commands should always be in the middle.
Yes, it is a
And
very weird rule though, the whole move through the ranks thing, but not along the fighting ranks. So if you've got the greatest ever dwarf fighter on your other flank, they can't make their way through to the actual fighting area. They just have to lend one supporting attack. Very weird.
yeah, but no, I think that's fair because otherwise the flanking attacks would be useless against these sort of very powerful heroes.
However, you're not totally lost though, because your very powerful heroes can make challenges, so they're not totally out of it. So even
True.
if they're not touching, they can still make a challenge, because they're in the fighting rank. And you can see all my Thunderers sliding off the hill, but you get the idea of where they're supposed to be. And from this overhead shot, I think it's looking pretty good for me at the moment. The Tree Man might be about to charge the Rangers, so he's going to have to eat a really nice stand and shoot with Armor Bane from the Runesmith, and then however many he kills, he's not going to kill like 10 of them, so they're going to be hitting him back quite hard. He's not a hero, unfortunately, so I can't challenge him with my king. Well, he's not king actually. Thorgrim, he's not king at this point in the story, is he?
No, I mean I was weighing all this up with my tree man, and then I remembered. Oh well, I've got this shooting attack of my own. So rather than running into a stand and shoot, why not whittle them down a bit with strangle roots?
And I think your confidence is boosted because this turn the organ gun did no wounds to the Tree Man.
Yeah, that was amazing. I think because it's got toughness 6, hasn't it? So it's quite hard to
Yes.
wound.
Then we've got some charges declared in the Wood Elf turn 3. We've got the
Yes.
Wildwood Rangers into the Gyrocopter. We've got
Yeah.
this unit of 2 into the Miners. And then we've
Yeah.
got this unit of 4 into Big Butts, the legendary Doomseeker. So do you want to explain your logic behind these charges?
Well, the Wild Rangers, they're the only unit it could charge, right? That's in the gyrocopter. So that was pretty obvious. I might get an overrun into your miners. Meanwhile, I need to eat up your stand and shoot from the miners. So let's do that with the Glade Guard, because the stand and shoot will probably kill them. Sorry, the Glade Riders will probably kill the Glade Riders. But then I've got my overrun from the Wild Rangers, and then you wouldn't be able to use your stand and shoot against them. That makes sense. And then I didn't want to stand and shoot against my Wild Riders because they are too brittle, and there's only 4 of them. So instead, why don't I charge into Big Butts, and with my multiple attacks and charging,
So,
I should be able to take him out.
to my understanding, I don't think any of the weapons in the Dwarf Arsenal are only one use, which is something that we did discuss after you decided you were going to do that charge. And I think, if I'm thinking of the right moment in the game, I might have said, well, you thought it was a single use, and I'm under the impression that it isn't. So if you want, then you can just not make that charge.
Right, so
And I
I
think
didn't
you
make
took,
that charge.
yeah, I think you took me up on that offer, and then we put them back again afterwards. Because the only reason you were doing it is because you thought it would be using up the blasting
Yeah.
charges, but I can't find where it says one use,
So
so I assume they're not.
Told says you can't stand and shoot versus an overrun, so
No.
that could be in my favour for sure.
Yes, so that's why it's a risk putting like a unit of Iron Drakes behind another unit of Iron Drakes. If the first one gets killed, they overrun into the next one, you've lost out on a stand and shoot option.
Yeah. Now, meanwhile, you're probably wondering, what's my Wood Elf Mage on the Unicorn been doing all this time? I'm into turn 3. Well, it did do the Summon Elemental Spirit on the hill to stop the gunners from shooting. And I did get that off, if I remember rightly.
I think I used my auto dispel to get rid of the one spell that you actually succeeded with, didn't I?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I did another spell where it was a -1 movement. I think that one failed. So
not
did
much
she do
so
anything
far.
at all? Did she manage to kill any of your warriors at all? I can't.
No, the Thunderers are still at full power at the moment by the looks of it.
I'm wondering what did the unicorn actually do then?
Well, she's moving over this way. She hasn't got any units to hide around anymore, so she's a little bit stuck right now.
Yeah.
And you can see the Tree Man does not charge in on its own, which I think is a good idea because it has a decent chance of dying from all those Strength 5 attacks from the Rangers.
Andy, I just remember what the unicorn did, and it was a Plague of Rust on your miners. You can see the token.
There we go. That's the one spell that successfully went off. You can see the paper there. Plague of Rust on the miners, so they now have no armor save.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
Oh yeah, so you do put this down actually as well. You've put down the vortex.
Yeah, so that maybe that nullifies your shooting on your next turn. I can't remember.
Yeah, so what you're thinking is put that there and it'll block some of them from shooting, which is definitely true. But my thinking is, if I just wheel round a bit, I don't have to touch it, the vortex, so I won't take wounds, and it might move away from me anyway. And then I'll be able to get enough of them shooting, hopefully, so that I can shoot down your wizard, is my plan at this point.
Now, this vortex spell, am I right in saying it's not as good as, say, the Pillar of Fire?
It is definitely not as good as Pillar of Fire, because Pillar of Fire, you choose which way it goes.
Plus, you can get a bigger template, right, if you score high on the magic roll.
Although, this one, it does block line of sight, which not all Vortex spells do. So that's something in its favour.
You can see that I've decided the Glade Riders, there's only 2 of them left, so hide behind the hedge, as well as that one surviving Glade Guard there.
Just preserving their points. So that's because those 2 units were originally going to charge in, and then you realise actually you wouldn't be using up the blasting charges because I don't think they do expire, so we'll not do that. Plague of Rust on the miners, and into combat.
Right to make it into big butts.
You can see lots of the miners get shot to death here. All your shooting targets the miners. You've made them your priority target this turn, definitely, and there's only 3 left now.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
You've killed some rangers as well. 4 rangers with shooting. You used your Strangle Roots attack.
Strangle Roots and also the archers on the left. I think I did focus fire on those 2 units, and it's paid some dividends there because the miners are looking devastated there. However, I think you rolled successfully on all your leadership tests.
Yes, as dwarves should do. No fleeing going on here. The gyrocopter is killed in this combat, and you choose that you're going to overrun into the rangers. Now, on the one hand, it makes sense because if you overrun, you're not going to have stand and shoot against you. On the other hand, it is my turn next, which means I'm going to be able to hopefully kill them in combat, because we do have Thorgrim right there, and then the rest of them with great weapons will hopefully be enough to obliterate that unit. We shall see, though.
Yeah. Bit disappointing because they did have a fireball spell. I might have cast it, actually. Maybe that's what killed a couple of your men, but...
you will get to strike first next turn, so you will hopefully kill some of the rangers. And if your goal was to protect the tree man from being shot by them, which is possibly a valid idea, then that will be accomplished.
Yeah, did I not try and charge the tree man in? That seems why didn't I do that?
No, because he wasn't in combat. You just used his shooting attack this turn because he was on his own.
Oh right, I got you. So yeah, the overrun brought them in, not my deliberate move.
The Wildwood Rangers here do actually kill the gyrocopter and overrun into the remaining miners, but they can't fully close the charge off because of this unit here, so they're a little bit blocked. And which is this unit of cavalry here?
Oh, well, what you're looking at there, they're the Wild Riders. They've killed Big Butts there.
Yep.
And they've overrun right into the organ gun. Beautiful.
That is correct. So, they've overrun into the organ gun, and the fact that they killed Big Butts means that the Wood Elves are not scoring any points for that, because he's a Doom Seeker, and that's 95 points that the Wood Elves are not scoring now. So he's kind of done his job just by seeking a heroic death and dying. It would have been nice if he got to kill something first. So yes, Big Butt was killed the instant he got charged by something.
Big Butts always gets killed.
Even when he's a Doom Seeker, he still seems to get killed. So, there's the overhead shot going into my turn 3. What is my plan? Well, we're going to see where this vortex goes, and then that's going to determine what I do with the Thunderers, because they would really like to shoot this spellcaster. The organ gun is going to die soon, but can't do much about that right now. The Rangers will hopefully kill the cavalry on this side. The miners will probably get killed. So I'm running low on stuff, but I have a lot of points packed into these two units. The Rangers with the heroes and the Thunderers with the heroes. So it's not all doom and gloom. We didn't have that much on the table to start with.
Yeah, I would have loved to have locked up your Thunderers somehow.
Yes.
With units, but I just couldn't. I didn't.
So the vortex moves away from them, so that's why it's not there in this picture.
Yeah, that sucks.
Then you can see here that the organ gun survives around and even kills one of the cavalry in retaliation. The final crewman whacked them in the face with his barrel swabbing stick.
Yeah,
so that's nice.
At this point, I realised I should be getting an extra attack with my Wild Riders because they've got Frenzy, but I've remembered that too late.
Let's see, Gemmel says they really need to bring back Fight Fire in 2 ranks to remove the unsightliness of Linehammer. I agree they'd need to do something about Linehammer, because it just makes the game look stupid. It doesn't look like a real battle, which is what Warhammer Fantasy should be. I don't think you can just get rid of it and make no other changes, though, because I think you'll be nerfing too many units. But you could do...
I think one solution, Andy, and it might have been in one of the old versions, if you've got a line and they lose a round of combat, then they automatically run away. How about that?
I don't know. But I think that, again, you're just nerfing those units that currently use the line without giving them anything in return. So you just make them a lot worse and people just won't use those units. So I think you need to change other elements of the rules, not just the line. So maybe limit the number of supporting attacks you can have on each side of a combat.
But you could get over that with the Oathstone. You know?
Yep, I think they should remove the incentive to run a single line, though. So the Thunderers...
For Glade Guard, just to have a really long line of Glade Guard?
Potentially. The Thunderers, on the hill, turn round and blast away the Spellweaver on the Unicorn.
Yeah,
just
devastating.
Riddled with bullets.
Yeah, at this point... It was only found out later on that the Unicorn gives +1 wound. And I think you got just enough wounds to slay her. But hey-ho.
Yes, I would have expected her to die from that many shots anyway.
Yeah.
But yes, it definitely gives you more chance to survive if you have an extra wound, obviously. Gyrocopter on this side just moves a bit closer, hoping to go and scorch someone later. Maybe these units that are hiding, like cowardly elf scum that they are. You can see here that this unit of Wildwood Rangers overran after killing the miners, and the engineer was able to evade out the way by passing an initiative test, which is rare for a dwarf, but he did. Passed,
yeah, that sucked.
dove out the way. And now they're stuck on the house for a moment. So the centre's looking a bit naked. In a challenge, Thorgrim completely smacks your champion to death over here on the left. And
yeah, I gladly took up that challenge though, because I knew he had a weapon that just can kill a whole unit.
Yes.
So
the Rangers mow down most of the rest of the unit, but do leave one, unfortunately. and then you pass your leadership. Because I don't
That's
actually score that many
yeah.
wounds. You save a lot of them.
Yeah, they've got 4 up ward save, which I think I've kept failing as well, but managed to keep one of them alive. So yeah, that sucks. I think you did the stupid gun on the tree man there.
Yes, so the tree man is now stupid next turn, which would be hilarious if he fails that test. And yeah, it was just a really good leadership test, because I didn't actually win by that much here, because I didn't do that many wounds. The king didn't, or not the king, keep calling him a king, he's Thorgrim. He's not on the throne at the moment, but Thorgrim didn't do much overkill in the challenge. I think I only did 1 or 2 wounds with him, maybe. It may have been just 1 even.
Yeah, the sisters got leadership 9.
Yeah, and then I killed the other 2, and they passed the test.
Yeah.
So that's how it's looking at the moment. The Thunderers are obviously in a great position, and no one is really a threat to them at the moment. The Wizard's gone, so that's a big deal. So they're going to be significant for the rest of the game. Anything that's in range of them is just going to get riddled with bullets, and anything that moves away, I can move after them and then still shoot at them as well. So that's
Yeah,
good.
you can see my war dancers have been completely ineffective this whole game. They've been tied up because they got stuck behind a stupid unit, and now they're totally exposed. So perhaps I should have been marching them forward earlier. I don't know. I think I just forgot the skirmishes, so it'd be -1 to hit. And I was thinking at this point, why didn't I take 2 units of war dancers, 2 units of 5 instead of 1 unit of 9 with a shadow dancer? I think I got too obsessed with the shadow dancer's Ruby Ring of Ruin, and
Yeah,
yeah,
you're missing out on what they're supposed to be doing.
yeah, yeah,
Toldoff says, even with the Rune of Smiting, yes. Still only managed to roll a 1 for the d6 wounds, I think.
yeah. I think I kept failing a few of these magical missile things. Either that, or you managed to shut them down with auto dispels.
Yes. And we're about to go into Wood Elf turn 4, and it's still really up in the air. My 2 big expensive units are still alive. Who is expensive for you that's still alive? The Tree Man is alive. The cavalry probably aren't that cheap.
Yeah, the war dancers, the Glade Guard unit is worth a fair bit of points. The Wild Riders as well. Yeah, I've got a fair few points to deal with. The question is not, can I kill the war machines? Because it looks like the war machines are going to be dead and buried. But the Rangers are now stuck facing that house, and they're going to have to spend a turn refacing something. But now they're exposed to the Thunderers. But also, the War Dancers are exposed to the Thunderers, but they can only shoot one of them. So, what do I do?
Yes. I should also point out, I can't remember if I've set the Grudge Stone yet. I might have set it this turn on the Rangers. I hadn't set it previously because I wasn't sure that there was going to be stuff around here to fight, because the Wood Elf units hadn't fully committed down here, so I might have actually set the Grudge Stone now. So they will be unbreakable for when the Tree Man goes in, just in case it goes horribly wrong for me. Turn 4 for Wood Elves. So the Tree Man passes his stupidity test, launches himself into combat, and it's going to be interesting, this, because the Tree Man can dish out some pain, but he's also going to receive some pain back as well. And even one attack from Thorgrim could potentially be devastating with that d6 wounds. Unfortunately, I can't challenge the Tree Man because he's not a character, which is very sad. The Tree Man Ancient is a character, so I could challenge him with Thorgrim, and that would be a lot of fun. So, we've got some archers, and now at this point you finally realise, wait a minute, poison tips, let's start shooting the war machines, and you knock 2 wounds off the Grudge Thrower immediately.
Yeah, I couldn't shoot the Grudge Thrower before because I didn't have the line of sight.
Yes. And you've moved your couple of archers. Look at that Hand of Rem there, which should be a spell on its own. And there it is without the hand. A couple of archers on horseback pop out, and they're going to try and shoot the gyrocopter. And in the middle, the War Dancers are still kind of stuck in no man's land. They're struggling to get involved.
I've moved them up. Yeah, I thought at this point, just leave the Thunderers. It's getting towards the end of the game. Let's see if I can win on points and take out that big unit of Rangers.
What,
Um,
what we should point out as
uh,
well, the eagle
yeah,
has rallied this turn and is actually coming back towards the action. Because it was running away earlier, but it was in the dead pile, so it just looked like it was dead. But it was actually alive over there, just fleeing.
yeah, I'm looking at that. I don't know why the Shadow Dancer is not in the unit of War Dancers because he's totally exposed on his own there.
Although he can't be targeted because he is too close to them.
Maybe that's the reason, yeah.
Then the organ gun finally goes down after putting up a brave performance. And the Wildwood Riders... Is it Wild Riders or Wildwood Riders?
Wild Riders.
The Wild Riders go straight off the table because they overrun. They are frenzied. We remember they're frenzied at this point. So they're off the table, but they'll be coming back here next turn.
I did ask you, couldn't I wheel on the overrun into the stone thrower?
No. You just have to go straight forward.
Right.
And in combat over here, let's see how it goes. A couple of dead rangers and some wounds done to the tree man.
Yeah, so one wound done to the tree man. I forgot I can regenerate, but it's only 5 up, so I probably would have failed it anyway. I would have hoped for more kills there, but it just didn't work out that way. My stomp attacks didn't really do anything, and my tree whack. I don't know. It looks like I should have killed a lot more there with that, but I just didn't.
Yeah, they didn't roll very well with the tree man's attacks, and then the rangers did a bit better retaliating. It looks like I've scored 5 on the combat res. They must have done a few wounds here.
Yeah, that would have been.
How many wounds does the tree man start with? About 7?
No, not that many. I'll tell you.
Toldaf says tree men are very mediocre. Controversial assessment.
Well, look, 5 wounds.
So I must have done more than that though, because the combat res is up to 5.
Yeah, well, maybe you were counting the Sisters of Thorn.
But they were down to 1 last turn though.
Yeah, well, it shouldn't have been that big a combat resolution then.
Maybe the dice tipped over onto the wrong number. It's possible. So that is rumbling on. And then into my turn 4. So this turn I'm going to be able to pick a target for the Thunderers and start blasting. I'm going to be able to get this gyrocopter into position to charge or flame somebody. And not much else, because I don't have a lot left. I've got expensive stuff left, but just not a lot of it. So, turn 4, the Thunderers unleash. And, well, the War Dancers. They take a load of... Are they not immune to panic, War Dancers? You would think they would be.
If they are, I forgot that. They have run away a fair few battles for me. Yeah, immune to psychology. Yeah, this unit automatically passes any fear, panic, or terror tests.
Yeah, there you go. So they should not have panicked and run away here.
That's major.
Yes. The perils of not knowing your own rules, Mr. Rem. Because looking at them, I was thinking, wait a minute, they're War Dancers. They should have immune to something.
Oh, that sucks big time, because then I could have... Well, let's face it.
It's not a full-on flee, though. They've fallen back in good order over there, so they're safe, but they're not killing anything, obviously.
Well, the thing is, Andy, it has big ramifications. Because they've panicked, now the Shadow Dancer is
alone.
On his own.
Yes. So, you can see here that the tree man has taken more wounds. So that other guy must have died, surely. The cavalry that was there.
Yeah, the sister got killed, yeah.
So the tree man is down to 3 wounds. And you can see stupidity has been put onto this unit of archers.
Yeah.
From the concussive handgun of the engineer.
He was a real thorn in my side, he was.
Yeah, I think that's a nice little item to use, especially against low leadership armies. Putting stupidity on units can be quite hilarious.
Yeah, perhaps I should have targeted him more. I thought the Wild Rangers would get him, but he ran out of the way.
The gyrocopter on the right flank charges in and kills those 2 remaining... What are they? The ones with the bows.
Glade Riders.
The final 2 Glade Riders killed by the gyrocopter in combat.
I think he charged in, I did a stand and shoot, it didn't do anything.
You were
And
you were thinking about firing and fleeing, but we determined you were
yeah,
probably going to flee straight off the table if you did it, so you chose not to.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so
In
this is how it's
hindsight,
looking.
should have preserved my points there, but I got the blood went to my head, and with one turn left, I thought, let's go for broke.
So let's see what the Wood Elves are going to do on turn 5. Oh, you can see here, these guys will come back onto the table now, and they're just threatening the Grudge Thrower for next time. And the Wildwood Rangers have turned round, doing all this intricate manoeuvring to get away from this house, so they're now actually in a position to threaten the enemy. The Tree Man, I think you don't charge in there. I think you decide you're going to shoot the Rangers instead, don't you? Because he's down to his final 3 wounds. Is that right? Yeah, because you've killed some of them with shooting here.
Yeah, would you have got a stand and shoot if I'd have charged in? Probably.
From point blank range, I could have only used the throwing axes. So it wouldn't have made that much difference, actually, because they'd still be wounding on 6s regardless.
No, I think I do charge in. It might be just taken before I did that.
Oh, by the way, you've also killed, it should be pointed out, you killed the Runesmith in this unit as well with the Tree Man.
Ah, that. He did something good then.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a challenge, maybe.
So what I'm thinking is that previous combat.
No, it wasn't a challenge. Not challenge.
If we wind back a bit, we might have had this upside down, because you might have scored 5 because you killed. Is this the turn you killed the Runesmith?
Yeah, I think I won that combat because you're on the Oathstone. You wouldn't have moved.
You can still follow up and give ground though, while on the Oathstone. But I think maybe you won the combat, and that's why the number's so high. But you chose not to follow up with the Tree Man, but you chose to follow up with the Cavalry because you wanted the Tree Man to not get punched in the face next turn. So I think that was that bit of logic sorted out there.
Yeah.
So what else is going on in my turn 5 now? Because that's how it looks at the end of yours. Not much of a turn because you're just consolidating your position a bit, picking your units, putting them into positions where they're likely to survive now because they're not very likely to be able to accomplish much before the end of the game. These ones up here.
Yeah, I mean, you can see my Glade Guard is still alive there, but there's just not enough shots there to take out the Thunderers. I could kill a couple of guys maybe, but nothing significant.
Into my turn 5. So the Thunderers turn round and totally blast off the unit that was threatening the Grudge Thrower. Because I thought they were a bigger threat, because they're obviously just automatically going to kill the Grudge Thrower, or at least I suspect a couple of them on the charge would do. So the Thunderers take them out and get me some victory points as well.
Nothing I could do though, because they just come off the table.
Yep. The Grudge Thrower goes for these archers. My thinking was, if I can kill 2 of them with a stone dropped on them, even if they fail, they won't fully flee, but they'll fall back in good order, and then they'll go off the table. So that was my plan, but it missed, as you can see.
Yeah, it did kill one. It did kill a few things. The Grudge Thrower, didn't it? I think it did take a wound off the Tree Man, if I remember rightly. And yeah, I don't know if it kept its points, so to speak, or it got its points worth. Do you?
I'm not sure. I think I decided I was going to blast away at the Tree Man because I can't charge with this unit, of course, now because I've got the Oathstone in there. So I just blast away at the Tree Man and wait for him to charge me. And then my other shooting just dishes out random devastation onto these units. Not a great deal. And we're going into turn 6 now. So the game's rapidly speeding up. But I think over the course of the game, Rem's turns took about 5 hours, and my turns took about 1 hour.
Yeah.
I think that is accurate. I don't think I'm exaggerating there.
Yeah. I haven't played for so long. Plus, I've got loads of new units I've never used before.
And your style of army as well tends to be one of everything.
Yeah.
Which
so
is
lots of rules
slower.
to learn and remember.
Yes.
And forget. Lots of rules to forget.
So
sure.
The Dwarves have only got very little on the table, but the things that are on the table are quite expensive. These 2 units very expensive. The Wood Elves have got multiple units scattered around, but they're not as expensive. So it's looking very close on the victory points at the moment. Into turn 6 for the Wood Elves. So
I'm just thinking if the Wood Answers had not panicked, because they shouldn't have, I could have done a charge into the Thunderers, hopefully have survived to stand and shoot and hold them up from shooting, and then get my Shadow Dancer in there if you could reach, because he is a beast in combat. That probably should have been the best tactic, and then the Wild Riders would have survived, killed your stone thrower. But yeah, all hindsight.
Now, you declared some charges here. You declared a charge with the Eagle into the Rangers, the Tree Man into the Rangers, and the Wildwood Rangers into the Rangers. So, if all those
Yeah,
units get in, you know that you have to wipe out this unit because they're unbreakable. So you can't beat them in combat and expect them to die. You have to actually kill all of them. So is that in your thinking here? There's no point trying to shoot them off in the last turn because you won't do enough damage?
I think I was disappointed with the Strangleroot attack. Looking at that, I could have shot with my scouts. At best, kill maybe 2 dwarves. Strangleroots, maybe another 2 dwarves. It wouldn't be enough to move the needle.
Yeah, there's
But what I
7 of
thought,
them left alive with Thorgrim.
yeah, exactly. So I can't get your engineer at the bottom because he's out of my charge arc.
Yep.
And it's the last turn. I need to get some points. So get the Wildwood Rangers in. They've been fantastic for me. Um, get the Tree Man in. How do I stop the stand and shoot against the Tree Man? Well, maybe threaten with the Eagle as well.
Yes, so it seems that both of us actually got what we want here. So I was hoping you would throw the Eagle in because then I can shoot it. Because it's going to be easy points compared to trying to finish off the Tree Man. I'm not confident the Tree Man's going to die by the end of the game because I can't charge him. So I wasn't thinking I'm definitely going to be able to kill him by any means. So that Eagle is going to be some juicy points and combat resolution. But on the other hand, that also means I'm not going to be hurling my throwing axes at the Tree Man, which could have potentially done a wound. And on a Tree Man, taking any wounds is a big deal at this stage because he's only got 3 left.
Yeah.
So the Eagle gets killed by the stand and shoot. The other 2 units make it in. Your 3 archers at the back here wearing their polka dot pyjamas go round and pepper the gyrocopter with arrows and get it down to 1 wound.
Yeah, so sad. I really wanted to finish him off.
Your other 5 archers take aim and finish off the grudge thrower, so that's some more points for the Wood Elves.
Yeah, that was lovely.
And
They've
then,
been great. The Deepwood Scouts have been brilliant for me.
then the Rangers are smacked into oblivion, but Thorgrim annihilates your champion in a challenge, so that's good.
I was happy about that because it takes out Thorgrim for that combat round, so you can only kill 1 model.
Yes,
But
the issue
this-
I had was that because, if we look, Thorgrim is here. So he was only going to be able to make 1 supporting attack anyway.
Yeah.
So he gets his challenge in, and now he's the only one left. So you've scored loads of points for the Rangers. And at this stage, I'm thinking, I've definitely lost this, because the Rangers are dead. That's a lot of points. How many points do I even have left alive? I don't feel like there's enough for me to win the game. So, my priorities this turn, I need to kill something. I need to just score points. So Thorgrim is going to try and kill something. Probably the Tree Man, because he's only got 3 wounds left, and Thorgrim's attacks do d6 wounds. So if one of them gets through, I could kill the Tree Man. The Thunderers are going to try and kill the most expensive thing that they're likely to finish off, which is probably going to be this hero around the centre of the table. The Gyrocopter is going to try and kill these 3 archers with the steam gun, because if I charge in, they'll stand and shoot and might take my last wound. So I'd rather just go and land about here and then try and flame them and kill them that way. So into turn 6, it's very close on the points. The Thunderers turn round and gun down that hero, so they've done their bit and got some points, and I think this has been a very successful Thunderer experiment. It is quite an expensive unit, because you've got Burlock Daminson in there, who's not that expensive on his own, but it's the buffs that he brings, and he's pretty good in his own right as well. He's got a decent close combat weapon, actually, and a 10-inch shooting attack, so we didn't really get much chance to use that in this game, because the enemy were usually too far away. But Thunderers, good job there. And then, wouldn't you know it, Thorgrim uses his mighty hammer and uppercuts the Tree Man right under the jaw. Bark, splinters, squirrels flying everywhere, and the Tree Man is no more.
Now, Andy, to add insult to injury, timber is the rule where if the Tree Man gets killed, he falls onto a unit, and you roll to see. Do you roll to see who decides?
Yes.
And you won it, and then you decided that the tree man falls on my wildwood rangers, which I don't think actually killed any, but it was an insult to injury, and then the rangers ran. I don't think I got any wounds on Thorgrim.
No, you
Um,
didn't. And Thorgrim can't go after you because he's on his Oathstone.
yeah, Oathstone.
But he kills the tree man and gets some juicy points there. The gyrocopter
Yeah.
fails to kill the archers. So, yeah, there you go. Look at that. That's the dead pile. Ignore that. So all this is alive, and that is the final shot of the game. So everything in that corner is dead, but the gyrocopter's alive. There's some archers there and there. War dancers. Tree man's dead. The wildwood rangers are alive. Are these scouts? These ones here with the white bows.
No, they're just Glade Guard.
Oh, they're the Glade Guards. They're still alive. The Thunderers and Burlock and the Runesmith with them are all still alive. Thorgrim is alive. And that's it, because you also shot down my engineer in the previous turn as well. So, we furiously get our calculators out. We had to double check it because it was so close.
Andy, I did kill the stupid gun engineer then.
Yes, you killed him right near the end.
That's something. Is that Burlock? Is he good in combat?
Burlock is in the unit of Thunderers, and he's not bad in combat actually, because he's got weapon skill 5, 3 attacks, and he's got a hammer that has, let's see, he determines his strength by rolling the artillery dice. And if you roll a misfire, he just takes a wound and doesn't attack.
That's strange.
That's quite funny.
I do wonder if the War Dancers had managed to get into combat, who would have won that combat? I think half of them would have been killed with stand and shoot.
I think the Thunderers probably would have won based on the stand and shoot, because it's a very, very good stand and shoot. There's 16 of them on a hill, and Burlock would have been able to use his rivet gun as well. And yeah, so I think the Thunderers would have had the edge there.
Yeah.
But purely from the stand and shoot. If it actually came down to combat, War Dancers are obviously far superior. And so with our calculations, if we factor in that the Doomseeker died, which means that the Wood Elves don't score any points for him, then the final result is a very marginal victory for the Dwarves. Very small win. It looked like it was going to be a Wood Elf win at one point while we were doing the calculations, but I think the Dwarves won by about 150 points or so, or 200. Not much at all. So if we were playing this at one of the square-based TSN events, it would be an 11-9 win for the Dwarves. So
yeah,
very, very close.
Came down to the last round, really, because I really could have preserved some points. Even with the mistakes I'd made, I could have preserved the Eagle, probably. Could have preserved the Glade Riders. You know what I mean? Could have preserved the Shadow Dancer. I think those things would have helped my cause a lot. And of course, perhaps I shouldn't have charged in the Rangers at the end, but they're worth a lot of points, so it was worth taking out that Ranger unit. It's just unfortunate the Tree Man couldn't survive.
Yeah, the big deal was the Tree Man dying, because before then it was looking like possibly a draw if everything else had gone the same way. But this guy being shot down and the Tree Man dying might have bumped it from a very small Wood Elf win to a very small Dwarf win, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things I should have remembered. Remember that the War Dancers can't panic, that the Unicorn gives +1 save, so that would have preserved my Sorceress potentially, and also remembering to regenerate with the Tree Man, which I forgot to do until the last turn.
Yes.
So
Gemmel says Thorgrim must be strength 10 from carrying that stone around. I agree, he should be.
I wonder if I'd remembered that the Wild Riders had Frenzy, who they would have had to have charged from the first turn. Perhaps they would have had to have charged the Thunderers on the hill, because at one point...
Yes, because if I was aware they had Frenzy as well, I would have been possibly trying to put something in front of them like a gyrocopter and force them to charge that. Yeah. So that definitely changes things a little bit as well. But yeah, it's all a learning experience, and I'm sure the comments are going to be full of people giving well-structured criticism for the Wood Elves to take forward.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, at the start of this stream, you know, people were saying it's going to be an easy Wood Elf win. Perhaps in a better player, it should have been. But I learned a lot from the game. Really enjoyed it, and Yeah, my Rangers, Wild Rangers were fantastic.
The Wood Elves
Love-
do have tools to worry Dwarves, because you've got ways round the toughness and armour. You've got
Yeah,
poison, you've got the -2 armour save on your bow shots as well.
yeah,
You've got access to some nice magic.
yeah.
I think maybe even more magic would have been good because your one wizard ended up dying.
Yeah, and I didn't get to use the wizard from the Sisters of Thorn. And I think next time I bring the sisters, instead of taking battle magic, I will take. Well, you can choose the spell from the laws that you can do, and what I should have chose the Wind Blast spell. I think it's in elementalism, and the Wind Blast is really effective against dwarves.
Yes, they're
Um,
very slow. They don't want to be moved a little bit. And also,
yeah,
if they're a gun line right on the table edge, just blast them straight off as well.
yeah, all seems straightforward in hindsight, doesn't it? I think also knowing that the Wild Riders have frenzy, probably you don't want to put them in the middle of the table. You know what I mean?
Yes. From the dwarf perspective, obviously this is a brand new list. The Engineers Expeditionary Force tried out some cool new stuff, some new engineering combos. The Scout Gyrocopter did fine. I don't know whether it's competitive with the regular gyrocopter because its stats are significantly down apart from a slight increase in movement. The plus is that you put it in core. So normally, core for dwarves, you have a unit of rangers and then everything else is a bit of a tax. That's the issue generally with dwarf list building that I'm finding. You have to put in units that you don't want to because you have to because they're core. Once you've gone through the rangers, who are maybe one of the best units in the whole army, but they can't fill the entire core allowance, unfortunately, unless you take one enormous unit of 40, or however many it would take, probably about 30. So,
Usually, Andy, you put engineers on your war machines, don't you? The war machines could be more effective, but I've sort of bypassed that by having smaller units where I don't mind if you shoot them off.
yes, but I
Um,
think the best thing about this engineering list is the fact that the core suddenly looks very spicy because you've got the Scout Gyrocopters in core. Thunderers are suddenly really tempting now because you can give them all those buffs so they're not suffering negatively to hit, which is what normally lets them down. They can move and shoot if you stick the quite inexpensive Burlock in there because he's only 85 points, which isn't much more than a standard engineer. But I think you get pretty good value for that because he's decent at fighting
yeah,
and he has the benefit of being an engineer on top of the other special rules. So I think he's really good value.
and I think having the runesmith in there negated my you know, fireball spells against you.
Yep, two
Which was
runesmiths
brilliant.
seem to work out all right because you can't take the anvil in the engineers list.
Yeah, I think they were more effective than the anvil. But the other
Well, you
thing
can move
was,
them closer, especially with this kind of list, with the Thunderers who can move and still shoot effectively. He was able to get quite far out, the runesmith in there.
having such a large unit means it's difficult for me. I'm going to go for your lone units and your smaller units with my shooting, rather than trying to take out that big dwarf gun line.
Yeah, I think this is
Um,
the most dangerous and solid the Rangers have ever looked in a game, because obviously they've got very expensive Thorgrim and a runesmith in there with them. But I thought that was pretty scary. They're not as
do you
easy
think
to avoid as a combat unit because obviously the Rangers are really good at shooting as well.
you think putting them in a big line was really important?
Yes, because I think anything less than that and they don't look as scary and you will just avoid them. Because if it's only 8 shots coming at you, you probably could just stay away from them for the whole game and eat a little bit of damage here and there. But if there's 16 ranger shots coming at you,
Right,
with
so you do it to maximise the shooting then.
yes, especially on the stand and shoot as well. If you're charging into the front of that unit and getting hit with 16 shots that aren't suffering any negative modifiers for stand and shoot, and then you're going into combat, diminished, you're not going to kill that many of them possibly, and then they're hitting you back with great weapons, attacks from every single model all along the line. So I think they are one unit that would definitely be affected by changes to the way line hammer works at the moment. Thorgrim, 250 points. He felt pretty good though. You didn't really attack him that much. You were mostly trying to finish off the Rangers, but he is pretty sturdy.
Yeah, did he have a good saving throw?
Yeah, well, he's got full plate armor and a shield, but he's also got, let's see, he's got a 4+ ward save against killing blow or anything with multiple wounds, so that's good. And you're -1 to hit against him in combat as well. So he's quite survivable.
That's why I avoided him. I made the right decision then until the end.
Yes,
Anyway.
he's pretty good. But that Grudge Stone, I can see that being pretty tasty. And I just saw that as an interesting combo, because as soon as you put down the Grudge Stone, Wood Elves don't want to engage Dwarves at the best of times. So if I sent out a big unit of 20 Hammerers and put down the Grudge Stone in the middle of the table, are you really going to charge into them?
No.
Exactly. So I thought with the Rangers, at least once I've planted the Grudge Stone, if the enemy choose not to engage, I can still shoot them. As long as I don't drop the stone too early so that you can just move away from them. Wait until you've committed and then drop it. So I thought that worked out quite well. I don't know whether it's the ultimate combo, but it seems decent.
All in all, it's a great game. Pretty evenly balanced, I thought, and it could have gone either way. So yeah, what more can you ask for? Great game.
Exactly. It came down to the wire. We had to actually use maths at the end to figure out who'd won. Little things like me killing your general, you not killing my general, helped as well.
Yeah.
So, thanks for watching, everybody. I think there was a problem with the view count a minute ago, because it was like 30 and then it dropped down to 6 and then back up to 21 in the space of like 10 seconds. So that sounds like a YouTube problem, unless the entire globe had a power outage at the same time, which seems unlikely.
Guys, thanks for coming in to watch. Make sure you like the video and support Andy. And it won't be too long before we have another matchup. I'm busy painting up my dwarf army, so at some point we'll have a dwarf versus dwarf, which I've yet to see.
Yes, I'm painting my Lord on Shield Bearers and my pony cart at the moment, and I was also able to order Ungrim. He was back up available on the Games Workshop web store today, so I've ordered him. He might be out of stock already again. I think that's going to be a trend for a while. He pops up for a while as they've made another box of them, and then straight out of stock, and then they're furiously just churning them out constantly in the resin chamber. So he's going to be getting painted as well, along with a load of Slayers. And there's going to be non-stop content coming up on this channel. This weekend I'm at an Age of Sigmar event, so you can expect to see a report on that. And don't forget to check out all the links in the description. There is the Discord server there, which is quite active at the moment. There is Twitter, Facebook group, and all that good stuff to keep up with what's going on. And obviously, if you enjoy the non-stop torrent of content flowing out of this channel and assailing your senses via the internet, then why not pledge your entire life savings to the Patreon or PayPal down there. And I'll probably spend it on Dwarves. We've got to be honest here. It's mostly going on made-to-order Dwarves, any donations. So if you think that's worthy. And Mr. Remington, any final parting words other than asking the people for Wood Elf advice for next time?
Well, I'm told it's hard to find Wood Elf players. That's what you told me anyway.
There are not many of them out there at the moment.
No, so hopefully you enjoyed the content and you enjoyed seeing some more unique Wood Elf models performing on the battlefield, such as the Unicorn and the Hawk Riders. You know, something a bit different. I might just bring the dragon next time.
Yeah, drop in some list advice, and if it's list advice other than just bring a dragon, if you can get creative in there, come up with some nice little combos in the Wood Elf list that maybe Mr. Remington has overlooked, that would be nice.
Yeah. I mean, there's some Wood Elf units I just love playing with. I love playing the Sisters of Thorn and the Wild Riders, and also the Rangers, because the Rangers with a Strength 5 is so good against Dwarves, having Toughness 4, because it's always hard to get wounds off against Dwarfs normally, and getting him into combat was really good fun, especially against a shooty Dwarf list.
Indeed. So next time, I might try one of the other Dwarf lists. I might try the Royal list rather than the Engineers list. That would be exciting as well.
Is that more combat heavy than that one?
It certainly can be. And there's also the threat of a double anvil list at some point that I know Rem is looking forward to facing. So, all that remains to be said at this point is... good night out there, whatever you are.